Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Jacquelene Closemore and you're on A1R Psychic Radio and Moonstruck TV. I've got my candle going. Just going to put this over here. So during the week there's been a lot come up about Ascension and it's been quite funny for me anyway. So when we sort of think about Ascension and what that actually means and we can get into all levels of technical difficulty here, but I think essentially when we're looking at Ascension in a pure form, we're looking at getting to a higher self. Now, the problem with a lot of different words that happen over time, like the word fun, that's been taken out of context to mean something completely different now. The word Ascension's kind of changed over the last 20-odd years, well, nearly 30. To be kind of like more of a status symbol. So it's sort of like, oh yeah, I'm totally ascended, man. And I'm like up on the fifth dimension. And it's sort of like, wow, okay. Someone hasn't been eating beetroot lately. There's just this sort of need to look at groundedness. And, being ascended, you're sort of talking about, like in the pure form, you're sort of talking about leaving Earth and sort of like being with the angels. I don't know that that's ultimately our goal in life is to just immediately be ascended, because if it was, we wouldn't be here. We've got stuff to do down here. So using the words ascension as a tool to not be involved in things or not to take a stance is not actually that spiritual. It's actually a form of what's called spiritual bypassing. And there's also kind of this spiritual snobbery that goes on where, well, I'm the 55th level of blah, blah, blah. And it's just, hey, look, I'm better than you. And it kind of gets boring and tiring. It's not just one sort of person I've heard going on about Ascension this week. It's quite a few. So I sort of thought, well, that can be today's show topic because it gets blasted about a heck of a lot. So if you're brand new to all this spiritual stuff and psychic and magical kind of world and someone's banging on about Ascension, I think with any terminology that you're not aware of, just say, oh, could you explain that to me? It's a bit like if a guy makes a sexist joke. The best thing to do is actually say, oh, I don't get it. Can you explain it to me? And just keep going, oh, could you just explain that a bit more and a bit more? And then eventually when they kind of realise that actually this is not so great and it's not actually funny, maybe they stop using that, at least on you, maybe not the next person. But when you sort of got people using jingoistic terms and that maybe they don't actually know about, that's when you can sort of pull back and go, oh, well, what to you does that, like, what does that mean to you? Because Ascension to one person might mean one thing, to another person, they might not even have a clue what that means to them. And then you've got other people who've gone and done some workshop and gone, oh, that's what it means. And other people will actually look it up in all sorts of articles about it. And other people will actually genuinely be working on clearing their energy and, getting real with themselves. I think the one example of that going really weird was a client many, many years ago, and I'm not identifying this person, but they came in and they said, have you read The Secret? And they've already booked their appointment. They've come in and they're sitting in the appointment. And they said, I just need to know if you've read The Secret, because if you've read The Secret, your reading will be of value to me. And if you haven't, then I don't see any point proceeding. And I said, look, I've actually read a lot of books in my time and I know where The Secret was gotten from. Here's my cat, by the way. Say hi, Cookie. No, okay. So life goes on. I said, look, I've actually read a lot of books. Is that one book The Secret if I haven't read that one book? And all of my, at that time, 20 years or something in this field, is that not counting for anything if I haven't read this one book? And she goes, well, I want to know. And I said, well, look, I'll tell you what, I know what The Secret is. Because to me, that's like The Secret, the book The Secret, is actually only one of the many universal laws that all interact. And this person actually told me, look, I've actually gotten rid of all of my karma and I'm now a master of my own destiny. And I sort of said, well, what are you doing getting a reading then? And if you master your own destiny, you already know where you're going. I don't need to help you with this. And she actually wanted to know if she would be removed from where she was living, and or whether she would still be able to stay there because she's demanifested her job and all this sort of stuff, because she couldn't understand why she'd lost her job and why all these different things were leaving her life. And I said, well, if you've wiped all your karma out, I mean, if you're even able to do that, but let's say that you were able to actually do that, then what point does having a job have? What point does having a rental have? And all these sorts of things. And I proceeded to say what would happen with this, that she would get evicted, where she would have to move to, that she would be sleeping on the couch of these people that were her friends. I described them and I described where they live. I won't give that detail away, of course. And how many months it would be that she would be occupying the couch before she would get another job in the city that she would then end up back in. And that she would then start her life over and everything would be a lot better as a result of her really shifting her consciousness. And I did mean that, but consciousness, I sort of meant get real. Nowadays, if I was talking to someone like that, I just would be using the words get real and just poof, blah. But, you know, I was being diplomatic, and this person was quite problematic and very, full on, like really at you, you know. So if you're doing readings at a later stage and you've got someone who's being very, very argumentative, there's sort of the ability to shut that down or to be diplomatic, and sometimes you have to be diplomatic, really diplomatic. So anyway, lots of complaints from her after the reading, and lots of very angry phone messages wanting me to, clarify whether this or that or the other was going to happen, and all these sorts of things, and emails and text messages, and it sort of just went on, and I sort of went, wow, okay, well, right. Time went by. I offered some resolutions about that, and that was sorted out. Time went by. And the exact amount of time went by, everything that I had said would happen happened. And then a couple of months after that, this person was then messaging me and ringing me and demanding to have an appointment. And nothing about, sorry about how I treated you last time. That wasn't there. Came back with, I'd like another booking. And I'm like, well, look, sorry, no. You don't actually have to take a person a second time, but the thing about this ascension is this idea people can get that they've wiped all their earthly responsibilities, or that they're better than you, or they know more than you because they've read one book or this or that. And the thing is, that's not the case. My cat would agree. Don't you? Yes. Co-star of the show today. You going to say hello to the camera? Oh, there we go. No. So the thing with ascension and things like that, and with people using spiritual snobbery on you, if you're feeling like you're less confident, you feel like you don't know as much, and you feel like just because of the forcefulness of the way they're speaking, or how much, authority they seem to have, if it's not jiving for you, it's not jiving. So if you're feeling like, oh, this feels really there, then it isn't. It's just not really what you need to hear. And it can be okay that maybe parts of what they're saying are good and parts are not. It's just really important to tune into yourself and go, this feels about right. The thing with ascension and, well, the idea of spiritually evolving is to actually not become numb to the world's problems and not to become highly insulated away from it, and not to get to a point where I hear a lot of people, ascensionists, go, oh, there's no right or wrong in the world. It's all just, really okay. No, you still in life, have to take a stand sometimes, and you have to have principles, and, you have to be aware of your privilege, particularly if you're in that position, that maybe you need to speak up against things that are actually upsetting other people that you might otherwise go, oh, I'm just really apolitical, and that really doesn't matter to me because I'm just really peaceful, man. No. What about your brother or sister who's over here and maybe suffering, while you're being silent? That's where stepping in and being spiritual actually is more like the Tower card. Everyone sort of thinks you go on a spiritual journey, it's going to be the Sun card, like like kid bouncing on a horse along in the Tower card. Oh, everything's great. Oh, I'm lovely and innocent. Yeah. No. You get Tower cards, like everything comes crashing down that you thought was real. And sometimes you can be finding out what's real, through that process. And it sort of can be like, oh, this is really uncomfortable. I have to deal with my own crap right now. Accountability. That's what real spirituality is. It's sort of like you have to deal with yourself. And being spiritual and all, really meditative, and I'm really peaceful and very positive. But, my family members are very negative, very negative. Yeah, like I don't know why they complain so much about me not doing anything around the house because I'm busy like cross-legged and yogi position. That stuff doesn't wash because part of being spiritual is, doing the dishes, believe it or not. It's fixing the car, it's paying the bills, it's, helping out around the place. And, you want to test out your spiritual capacity. It's being able to be in the presence of fairly offensive people and not be triggered. When we're talking about triggered, that's I want to be careful about that word, but to not be offended, or not to take it personally, but to actually be able to maybe engage in a more neutral, calm fashion rather than having to jump to this or to that. And maybe, to actually argue a point that's important, to take a stand, but not to sort of sit there and say, well, I can't talk to you because of that, unless it's very, very fundamental things where no matter what you're saying, this person's just coming back with the same stuff to try and drag it all down. And if their opinion is actually, quite dangerous for the community or society, well, that's where obviously you draw a line. There has to be lines drawn at times. So that's just what I wanted to say today. I'm going to catch you next week on A1R Psychic Radio and Minstruck TV. It's been lovely speaking to you, and feel free to write in if you need to on Jacquelene Closmore Live on Facebook or onto my website, which you'll find somewhere here, jacqueline.com.au anyway. Catch you next week.